Well, again, they didn't really have one barbershop. When I started the visa process, there were no barbershops. And I didn't realize most of the surrounding countries either, really. Just about 3 months before I got here, Thomas's barbershop opened. And Tomas, I met him. We actually did an episode of a TV show together a couple years ago, and I finally met him. Great guy. You know, he already had experience. But for years, it was only me and him, really, or his shop and me. Yeah, it just, timing, it was no master plan of my own, but the timing just kind of fit perfectly. And I'd been here, I don't know, a couple of years. And I always marketed myself as the American barber in Prague, not Craig the hairstylist at Head Salon. And this brand just started building, and I pushed the classic Americana, you know. And like one of my clients brought it to my attention at my last place, looking around at all the stuff. It's all like, you know, post-war. He's like, you know, this is when everybody liked America. And I'm like, well, there's probably a little bit of that idea in my head, the romantic idea, but it's also the era of the classic haircuts too.
The 50s, the 60s, right?
Yeah,
the
50s, you know, well,
American
50s and early
golden age
60s. Yeah, 50s, early 60s. And then you start getting into all the transitioning, which actually led, I've been working on, now I got my new laptop, I can finish this book up, but I've been working on a book for barbers, but I'm probably going to turn it a little bit more for the average guy too, just stories. Cultural part of the barbershop, some of the history, you know, the barbershops around the U.S. are going to be pretty similar, and like a white barbershop and a black barbershop, they're going to be similar but different. In a barbershop in the South compared to barbershop up north, it's going to be a little bit different. They're all similar, but they're going to have their own little differences. So I'll be showing like my family's history and other barbers and barbershops and more of the southern, you know, aspect of it. And I was going somewhere with that, but my train of thought derailed.
That's fine. It happens to me as well. Man.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's just a cultural thing. It's a, you know, a meeting place, and traditionally, like this shop's different. It's a combination, in my mind, of my grandfather's shop. I remember running around as a kid, my dad's shop. And like as we got talking about into the 60s, then the hairstyle started going long. And what happened then was when the Beatles came to the U.S., it made such an impact. And back then, you know, now you can go online, look at anything, find anything about it. There's music you want to watch, you can find it. Wasn't the case when I was a kid, obviously. We had, even in the U.S., there was 3 networks. They went off at midnight. And you know, you could try to purchase the music magazines, or you go to the record store to listen to the albums, and hopefully they're playing it on the radio, and you could call the DJ and, you know, can you play? And you got your cassette recorder ready to try to tape this thing. So if somebody was bigger then, the labels were pushing them. They were, especially like the Beatles, massive. And national news, you know, people were going, girls were fainting and everything. But obviously young guys seeing girls fainting over other young guys are like, shit, I want to look like that, or I want to be a musician. And their hair actually wasn't that long, but they were called the mop tops. So you go from these classic cuts almost overnight to that.
The mop tops.
And then you started getting into later in the 60s, guys coming back from Vietnam, and then the hippie movement, and then the hair started getting really long. And like, you know, I went to hairdressing school, but I learned the barbering from my family. And there's a lot of, again, similarities but differences in techniques and things.
Your grandfather started in
1914, I think,
14,
something like that. Yeah,
more than 100 years already
of
history in your
yeah. And
do you remember if he ever gave you a cut, or was it just for me?
He gave my brother. My father gave me my cut. My grandpa, he cut my brothers probably, and my dad did it mostly. But I'm the baby.
Okay.
And I had my mother's, like, I had the curls and stuff. I think Grandpa didn't want to take a chance of doing that. So my dad, you know, cut my hair. And, you know, of course, it wasn't any kind of traumatic, like a lot of kids, it's kind of a traumatic thing. You know, I think about it twice because it's your dad, you know, doing it. And I always tell people, like I said, you have the more traditional barbershops now. And the barbershop in Atlanta, where I was, my brother's got in Atlanta, you know, it's traditional. It's kind of like a shotgun store, 5 chairs, waiting chairs, and then you can either wait on your regular barber or whoever is up next. Most guys are a creature of habit, and they tend to come, you know, and they're coming every 2 or 3 weeks. And they get to know each other as well, you know. And a lot of guys, because guys are, you know, joking around and bullshitting with each other and teasing each other, and you bring a kid in to learn how to interact, how men actually interact.
Okay.
And a lot of that stuff is
Gone.
you know. But you still have, like the shop in Atlanta is still traditional like that. Although this, you know, COVID stuff has wrecked everything, you know. Yeah, you know, it's kind of fun. When I was born, I got to see, like I said, because I remember before I started school, run around the barbershop, my grandpa's, and then my dad started with the barbering, and then he became one of the first men's hairstylists in the U.S. And actually, that picture there is when he won All American Barber Championships. So when the hair started going long, it's a different deal, which is what's happening now. I've got 2 barbers that I've trained from scratch, and now they're like my stepkids. And I was telling them the whole time, yeah, you got to learn the skin fades. That's a basic. Everybody needs to do that, but it won't last. You know, some people will keep it, but it's going to transition. Styles always change. Everything goes in cycles. And as older you get, the more you realize everything goes in cycles. So the long hair is coming. Not necessarily as long as I'm going with mine, but I'm reliving my youth again.